All right, so thank you everyone for being here today. We just want to acknowledge you all for taking time to be here and joining us in our presentation. So we can go ahead and get started. And our presentation is called Puedes Mija, Our Immigrant Mothers' Roles in the Pursuit of Our Doctoral Degrees. So my name is Adriana Quintana Lopez, and I am a fifth-year doctoral student here in the SOE.
I'm Mayra Nunez Martinez, and I'm a fourth-year PhD student in this SOE as well.
And I'm Tadria Cardenas Rico, fourth-year PhD student, and we also wanted to mention now Dr. Nunez Martinez.
Yeah, so she's my sister, and she's part of the research collaborative that we have formed. And she was unable to be here today, but she took a big part of this project and was able to present with us at ARA last week.
So before we begin, we want to acknowledge our positionality within the work that we do and within the space that we hold together. So as first-generation Latina undocumented graduate students, we carry our communities on our backs, and we include them in the work that we do day in and day out. Because of what we have all lived and pushed through is the reason why we center our community's wants and needs at the forefront of our research epistemologies. Through our work and our existence in the ivory tower, we are creating a more humanizing experience for future generations of undocumented Latina graduate students. Our work hopes to give an opportunity for our community's collective healing and for more equitable policy and practice change when it comes to recruiting, accepting, and retaining us within higher education institutions.
So before we begin, we did want you all to engage in an activity. So we did want you all to engage in reflecting on your graduate student experience. So thinking back to when you were a graduate student or thinking to your current challenges as a graduate student. And you can use the QR code or the link below, and it will take you to a Padlet where you can document these challenges. So we'll spend a few minutes doing that, and then we'll have you share with the partner share with the group some of the challenges that you experience or are experiencing. Okay, link in the chat. Thank you. Yeah, you can get it and then just base it. And you go to the Padlet to see. Is this one? The other one, right. So take about 1 more minute.
Recording in progress.
All right, so I'm gonna just ask if anybody's willing to share what they wrote, if you feel comfortable, and then also on Zoom. If you want to raise your hand, if you would like to share with us some of the things that you wrote in terms of the challenges that you face or are currently facing.
Yes, I will say that in the beginning, my graduate year and for quite a while during day-to-day, so a lot of times it was a conflict center was the biggest one for me. Feeling like am I really supposed to be here? Do I know, am I, in the right kind of space? So, yeah, that's something I still battle with today. That was great.
Thank you so much for sharing. And then, yes.
Because I think I came in thinking kind of dynamically, it would be challenging, but I found more challenging is social aspects of isolating, being far away from family, giving up a salary, and kind of seeing other people progress in a different way in their careers that I'm not seeing the same as.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, anybody else on Zoom or in the room want to share? Oh, yeah.
Here, right? After publishing the kind of going that's about and very good.
Yeah, that's real. Thank you for sharing. Yes.
I don't know how this class with people here waiting to. Like, no, like. This is the church maybe. But it's.
In contrast, I was the third, but school, and that was a challenge in itself, just balancing the job, the school, the knowledge, the being very hard.
Thank you both for sharing. Yeah. And then I think Bree had her hand up. Bree, do you want to share? I don't see her.
Yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to say that as a first gen and as a Latina, my parents really understood the importance of getting a graduate degree, but they didn't know what I was going to do with it, what my plans were for it, how to support me. And even to this day, like I love them dearly, but they don't know my research. They don't know what I've done. Or so they just kind of know she's doing good. She's got her degree, but they don't really know what I'm doing with that or how I'm making a difference, I guess.
Thank you for sharing, Bree. And then I'll just go ahead and read off some of the things that everyone posted here. So not feeling proud of the academic communities, needing to make money, that's very real, work-life balance, sense of not belonging, not feeling supported, discrimination, giving up my personal time and growth, waiting to have children after I'm done, cultural isolation, insecure about my writing, being the only Latina in the program, being expected to represent La Raza and speak for all, working full-time during the entire grad program, finding sense of self and community, came into the graduate program having a very broad idea of what I wanted to study. Through class discussions and talks with colleagues, I found what I wanted to study with the people I wanted to study with and newfound motivation for the work I do. Staying motivated, maintaining financial support, and combating imposter syndrome. Having not enough time in the day, balancing my roles and responsibilities as a student, employee, parent, wife, lack of math skills and coding skills, financial challenge of security, my family and spouse not really understanding what I was doing. They knew it was important, but didn't know how to help. Imposter syndrome, twice. And then, so we see some recurring themes already. Other challenges, not understanding all the pieces it takes to be successful, being an isolating process, giving up a salary to invest in myself in this way, being far away from family and friends, collaborative experiences, tener una mejor vida, so having a better life. Yo me preparé y traté de informarme lo más que pude, pero siempre les dije que sí puedo llegar a donde. So we have someone saying that they try to prepare themselves and then try to provide the tools and the resources to support someone in a graduate program. All right, thank you all so much for sharing. We really appreciate it. So we're gonna go back to our presentation. So now we want you all to do, so for those on Zoom, just because of logistical things, we're going to have you reflect on this individually, but we also welcome you to share once we give you a few minutes to reflect on it. But those in the room, we do want you with a partner to reflect on who helped or has helped you navigate these challenges and how did or do they help you navigate them. So take a few minutes to do that.
Would anyone like to share what they discussed with their partner / what they reflected on themselves?
Y'all were talking, I heard you. It's okay if you've not though. Yes.
We talked about our
Mm,
seeing the wall.
yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I was scared of myself, saying. But, there's a late health. So we have peers who work on sharing with each other's experiences that are really like, we watch these kids and then they need trust. Like, really. We are like, and. These scared more than. We talk about the word, you know, you need
Cool word. Yeah. Mhm. Okay, so if no one on Zoom has anything, we're gonna move on. So we just wanted to ask these questions, sort of to get you all thinking about these challenges and the people who have helped. But now we're gonna go into our statement of the problem. So we're highlighting these statistics about the Latino student, I guess, educational pipeline. And so here on the green, you can see the percentage of students that are making it through. And it's breaking down by gender. So I'm gonna just leave that there for a little bit. And then, oh, it's highlighted there. And then here, we talk about undocumented students. So just to give a little bit of background, about 90% of students who are undocumented or who are in college, 90% of them are undergrads and only 10% are in graduate school. Now, if you break that down, if they qualify for DACA, then the numbers go down to 87% are undergrads and then 13% are graduate students. So one of the things that we were discussing was, I guess, this bigger idea of differing values and cultures or contested navigation of two different worlds between the home life of Latinas in the United States and formal schooling spaces can be attributed to the low rates of graduate degree attainments compared to other racial ethnic populations. So we really want to address this part of why the numbers look the way they do and thinking about how the school environment being so different from what we experience at home is contributing to those to that number. So, Adriana.
All right, so we do want to address that our paper is an exploratory paper, which highlights the gaps in the literature when it comes to immigrant mothers and higher education spaces. We must acknowledge that in the same way that higher education spaces were not created for us or with us in mind, they were also not made for our mothers to be integrated and appreciated for their knowledge that they bring to our lives into these spaces as well. Which is why it is imperative to call attention to the various assets, lived experiences, and experiential knowledge that our mothers have brought to our doctoral journeys. Specifically talking about how even though Latina immigrant mothers may not understand the college aspiration or college going process, or even the college choice process, they are still invested and engaged and supportive of their children throughout their educational journeys. Many a times, parents pass down consejos and dichos that inculcate la buena educación in children who harness those consejos, dichos, and la buena educación to motivate, inspire, and persevere through the college application and choice process in the United States. With that in mind, thank you. we have determined that the purpose of our study is twofold. So to examine the inequitable structures that impact access, retention, and successful completion rate of a doctoral degree for undocumented Latina students. And two, to acknowledge the sacrificios our Latina immigrant mothers have done to help us navigate through these challenges. So with that, our research questions are, what challenges do undocumented graduate Latinas encounter navigating dual roles of the home life and the school life? And how do our Latina immigrant mothers help us foster varying forms of capital in the pursuit of our doctoral degrees?
So in terms of the framework that we are using to guide some of these thoughts that we have been thinking about how our immigrant mothers have supported us, we are using cultural brokering, and there are a lot of different definitions for cultural brokering, but we selected one that made the most sense in terms of what we were trying to accomplish with this paper. And so for this, we are defining cultural brokering as the act of bridging, linking, or mediating between groups or persons of differing cultural systems for the purpose of reducing conflict or producing change. So who are cultural brokers? So cultural brokering has been used by formal educators and staff as a practice that uses language brokers, school liaisons, teachers, and instructional aides to help families address challenges and needs at school. Some of the literature also highlights that Latinx youth and young members of immigrant families serve as language and cultural brokers for their families. And through our pláticas, our conversations together, we did find various ways that we have served as cultural brokers for our families, specifically our immigrant mothers, but we also do acknowledge some critiques in terms of how this framework has been applied. And we're trying to address some of these challenges and critiques through the work that we present here today. So some critical considerations around cultural brokering. Cultural brokering has historically normalized whiteness and primarily served the converging interests. Conceptualizations of cultural brokering rarely examine the underlying power dynamics that can continue to perpetuate the marginalization of communities of color. So in the literature, we felt like sometimes cultural brokering was used by looking at a particular culture in a deficit way. So it was always thinking about like, how is someone giving to somebody else that needs, right, this like knowledge of culture or language. And so we really wanted to critically think about ways to challenge that through our own work. And we'll be talking a little bit about how we do that. So in this paper, we apply cultural brokering as a critical framework to examine the inequitable structures that impact access, retention, and successful completion of a doctoral degree for undocumented Latina students, and the enseñanzas y sacrificios our Latina immigrant mothers have done to help us navigate through these challenges. And we do this by using an asset-based lens with cultural brokering, challenging the idea that culture is a deficit and acknowledging that cultural brokering is a dynamic reciprocal relationship. And we did want to highlight some work from Delgado Gaitan that highlights that Latino parents often play a pivotal role as brokers between their family and school, even if they have limited knowledge about schools. Family culture narratives, including myths, folktales, dichos, autobiographical stories, and consejos, serve as motivational strategies for children's educational efforts. So in this work, we argue that our immigrant mothers have been our cultural brokers in our doctoral journeys, allowing us to navigate both our experiences at home as well as in academia. Through cultural brokering, our immigrant mothers have informed the various types of capital that we have utilized to navigate some of the challenges in our journeys.
So for the methods of our paper, we decided to do Pláticas methodology. So we used our 2 research questions as our guiding questions through our Pláticas. So we came together after independently coding each Plática transcript. We came together and collectively met to discuss any discrepancies that we saw in our coding practices. We also came together to do a second pass of coding to begin to identify similar themes and codes and the differences, if any, between those themes and codes, which created subcodes. So in the following slides, we will be going over some emerging themes, which are still in progress. We did these by meeting collectively to group codes into larger themes that reflect the reoccurring themes across our pláticas thus far.
Okay, so before we get to our findings, we wanted you all to reflect on another question. So when you think about the culture in academia, what words come to mind? And you can either use the code or go to menti.com and insert your answers that way.
I can leave it up a little bit and then we can close out.
What did I do? Did we do
Didn't go to
anything?
sleep. Yeah.
We're back. Okay, so thank you for engaging in the activity. So as we can see, we see different words like competitive. Competitive was the one that most people put in. That's why it's the biggest. White, elitist, collaborative, tensions, individualist, privileged, so on and so forth. So we want you all to keep those in mind as we continue the presentation here. Go back to. Okay. So some of the themes that we found in our pláticas as a result of our coding is so we found that the culture in academia, we found it to be very individualistic, whereas our families, specifically our mothers, have taught us to be collective, and have taught us like, where to kind of bring your community up with you, and to collaborate and to build that sense of community. We also found that so scholar knowledge is very important, whereas for our mothers is community knowledge that matters. Meritocracy versus apoyo sacrificial, and then opportunities are scarce and opportunities are plentiful. And we'll go over these in more depth. So for individualistic, so for academia, collaborative work is sometimes discouraged, and your work is what's most important. Whereas like our mothers have taught us that collaborative work is encouraged and your community is what's most important. And so for us, that has been very important, not just in how we navigate our experiences here, but also in terms of obtaining like different opportunities. So one example that we like to point out is the fact that we're here presenting together, and we've been presenting at different conferences like AERA, ASH, so on and so forth. And so we really try to push back on this idea of the individuals what's best and sort of bring us together to do work that matters for us.
Another thing that came up in our pláticas through our experience was this centering of scholar knowledge in academia. So really this idea that knowledge is produced by academic scholars and researchers, but also that knowledge is confined to the academy. So we think about where this research is published. Oftentimes it's published in journals that you can't even access if you're not at a university, or in language or using terms that is inaccessible to communities as well. And so reflecting on our mothers' experiences, so we'll share 2 examples. So one of our mothers, they tend to share college information with other parents working in the fields. And this is specifically on how to support undocumented students going to college. Another one of our mothers also partnered up with a nonprofit organization to support DACA applications for undocumented students. So really thinking about their expertise and the expertise that they bring. So centering in community expertise and increasing opportunities for our communities. And also sharing that knowledge. So not just keeping the knowledge to themselves, but sharing it in a way that will also benefit the community. So that's something that came up from our pláticas and conversations together. Another one is this idea of meritocracy. So this idea that educational achievements are produced through academic institutions and that individuals are rewarded based on their abilities, power, or positions. And so our mothers have really taught us the importance of apoyo sacrificial, which translates to sacrificial support. So even though our mothers are undocumented and growing up, they always had this fear and uncertainty because of their immigration status, that did not stop them from also providing that support to us. And so we really reflect on that in how our achievements are a product of their commitment to providing us with more opportunities despite the challenges that we face. And we still also carry that with us in our doctoral journey and program. And also the importance of crystallized knowledge acquired through our mother's enseñanzas y sacrificios. So really what they taught us and the sacrifice that they did have also allowed us to continue despite it's, being hard and facing challenges in the program.
So another one of our themes is opportunity are scarce. Opportunities are scarce, so there aren't enough opportunities. So students have to always be in competition with one another. And undocumented students have limitations due to their documentation status. But our mothers have really taught us that there's always going to be an opportunity for you, and that community over collaboration and over competition. Community over competition, when we collaborate together, will always give you plentiful opportunities. So I think, as Tadria was mentioning earlier, us presenting together and building community within these spaces have really given us the opportunities to grow, not just as individuals, but collectively together. And of course, documentation status has never stopped us before, so it won't stop us now. One of our mothers specifically would always find internships for one of us, regardless of immigration status. So be it through volunteering opportunities in the local library, going out to ranches and reading books that weren't readily available to students during the summer time when school libraries are closed. So all of these opportunities were because of our mother. So we just wanted to really highlight how if we reframe our mindsets, we can always find an opportunity in something. And that's really where our mothers come into play, because they always found a way to just work through the system, a system that always works against them, but they made it work. So of course, we have to find a way to make it work for us too.
So in terms of our methodological, and sorry, I have a hard time with that word, but implications is, so we're using Pláticas as a methodology and cultural brokering. So it allows us to challenge the narratives that have already been written about us and amplify the voices of our mothers, which have been historically silenced and excluded. So through the use of Pláticas and cultural brokering, we are critically interrogating the power dynamics between home life and academia. And challenging who has control over those narratives and over our lived experiences, and how those are talked about. In terms of research implications, so the relationship and cultural brokering that happens between like immigrant children and their parents, it's complex and not one-sided. And so we're really trying to challenge that idea that we're the only ones who do the cultural brokering for them, but rather it's a reciprocal relationship, and it's much more complex than that. We need more asset-based frameworks to study cultural brokering, as it is complex, and our immigrants' mothers, consejos, experiences, and cultural intuitions have allowed us to recreate academic spaces that have historically not been created for undocumented Latinas. In terms of practical implications, so institutions should honor our immigrant mothers' truths, and these have carried us through the pursuit of our doctorate degree, and they have been seen as culturally deficient, neglected, and silenced. So institutions should cultivate connections with parents throughout the graduate school journey. It shouldn't just stop at K-12 or undergraduate. And then graduate programs should consider and incorporate various cultural enseñanzas that may often conflict with the traditional culture of academia, but will really help students like ourselves understand how to navigate such a complex I guess, experience of being part of two very conflicting worlds. So one last reflection here. So what are the ways that institutions and graduate school programs can better support and be responsive to the needs of undocumented graduate Latinas? And we'll give you all around like maybe 3 minutes or so to sort of brainstorm, and if you could please share, and then we'll share out. Where's the third one? Oh, no, sorry. Am I doing this? Sorry.
And they should take you to a Jamboard where you can document your brainstorming. Oh, yeah, that's true.
So should we just like to share out?
Yeah, you can just talk to me.
You may have to. if
Does
you
it
don't-
take you to download the app and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, we can just forget about this one, and we can just share out. So if anyone has any ideas that they would like to share, feel free.
We would be happy to listen.
Or you can take time to talk with, oh, Sherry.
About like. So. Teach. Just something they were, it's awesome parents, they give them a sense of what the experience can be like with their family members. Provides ideas of how to better support students.
Speaking of like about uncomfortable my parents were when they fit to actually that's another guy recently in graduate school. I was trying several like comfort even in these spaces. They weren't used to these spaces. So I think have to be very nervous with the for reading about art as well as the work. But when I was doing some kind of like what black people think about. And it just reminded me of UCLA HSI when we did. Even for students, we would be say, we got most of the see what happened on campus and say transform that space into something that makes sense to the students. This is us 20 years later, thinking back over getting like, wow, I hope. It was little things like make the entire space look like LA, and like the LA doesn't.
Yeah.
Doesn't listen. It's just going to be, you know, if we do it right, what has to happen to make all parents feel comfort?
Puede ser en español. Ujú.
Sí.
Sí. Yo creo que las instituciones, todo debe de cambiar desde el principio de la educación, porque donde viven las personas que somos de bajos recursos o personas indocumentadas, la educación es muy baja en comparación de las lugares donde hay más dinero. Yo creo que todos tienen derecho a una misma educación, una educación al mismo nivel para que todos puedan competir de la misma manera cuando llegan a un colegio. Es mucha la diferencia, la educación de high school, de elementarias, en los lugares donde vivimos la gente de bajos recursos, personas indocumentadas, a donde hay un mejor nivel de vida. Y eso tiene que cambiar. Todos los niños, todos tienen derecho a tener una mejor educación para llegar mejor preparados a un colegio y llegar a donde ustedes están.
Thank you. So that was my mom. And essentially, what she was saying is that where low income, undocumented people live, you can see the difference in the education, how would you say it, like
From K through 12 and
opportunities, like, yeah, so you can see the inequities and they're very apparent. And so she thinks that everyone should have the same opportunities so that we can all get to this space in this room and have a say in the conversation. Yes. Oh, yes, Natalia?
Yeah, thank you. So I think first I want to thank you all. I think that even making these kinds of spaces more accessible with why don't we have interpreters in right so that your moms could be part of this presentation since right, I think that that's really important if we're going to become an HSI and this is a public institution. I think that that's part of it. Also, I think the School of Education, and I don't want to harp on the School of Education, but all departments should be responsive to the needs of California and the state. So why isn't the School of Education, and I'm also part of the Chicano Studies department, we should be responsive to the needs of K through 12 education. So why aren't we training the teachers that are going to be teaching ethnic studies K through 12? We should be doing the teaching certificate. That's one of my goals. Danny, please, let's work on that together. Another thing I think is, and this is, I don't know if this is time for Q&A or not, but I think that, you know, all these things are really crucial. But I'll stop there. Then I'll ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for that.
All right, so to end our presentation, we would like to share an opportunity through the AB 540 and Undocumented Student Center. If you are interested in learning about how to be a better advocate for undocumented students. There is one happening today, so the registration is most likely closed, but there's going to be a virtual option on the 22nd of May, and it's the Undocu Advocate Program for Educators. If you have taken it in the past, you are also highly encouraged to retake it so that you can learn about new things that are happening with the undocumented student community. As graduate students, you're also allowed to take this training. And at the end, we just wanted to thank our mothers. So this is her picture. This is Tadria's mom, Mayra and Briseida's, and at the end is my mom. Just wanting to thank them for giving us the opportunity to even be here today. Because of them, we are here. Thank you.